Wow. This time you've sent in a ton of stuff on digital culture and science fiction.
Yeah.
Looks like you're really interested in how those two worlds connect.
Yeah.
Honestly, so are we.
Right.
We've got some academic essays, excerpts from Decoding Digital Culture with Science Fiction, even a PhD defense statement in there.
Oh, wow.
Someone has been busy.
It seems like you're fascinated by how science fiction can help us understand our digital lives.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're going to be looking at today.
Right.
We'll explore the key concepts and arguments from these sources. Yeah. And who knows, maybe we'll all end up questioning reality a little bit by the end.
Okay, let's unpack this. The first thing that jumps out from these sources is this argument that science fiction is more than just entertainment.
Right.
It's a powerful tool to understand how technology impacts society.
It is a fascinating point.
Yeah.
You know, science fiction isn't just about robots and spaceships.
Right.
It's about exploring the potential consequences of all our technological choices and how those choices end up shaping our lives and our relationships.
It's like science fiction is holding up a mirror to our present and our future, right?
Absolutely.
One example that comes to mind is the self-driving car.
Yeah.
It's everywhere in science fiction, from Minority Report to The Fifth Element.
Right.
These stories aren't just cool visuals.
No.
They force us to think about the real-world implications of this technology.
Absolutely. Take Minority Report.
Yeah.
It raises these really interesting questions about using technology to predict and prevent crime.
Right.
What happens to individual freedom
Yeah.
in a world where algorithms are determining your future?
It's unsettling to think about it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, buckle up, because the sources also go into some pretty mind-bending territory.
Yeah.
With Jean Baudrillard and his concept of the simulacrum.
Ah, the simulacrum. The idea of a copy without an original.
Right.
Blurring the lines between what's real and what's simulated.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly relevant to our digital lives.
So are we already living in this hyper-real world of simulacra?
Right.
What comes to mind for you when you think about this concept in our everyday digital interactions?
Well, think about social media.
Yeah.
We create these carefully curated online personas.
Yeah.
We present an idealized version of ourselves.
Right.
Is that real?
Right.
Or is it just a carefully constructed image?
It makes you wonder about the authenticity of our online interactions.
Right.
How we perceive ourselves and others in a world where everyone's presenting their best selves.
Yeah.
And it's not just social media.
No.
Think about virtual reality.
Yeah.
How it creates these immersive experiences that can feel incredibly real.
It's becoming harder and harder to distinguish between the real and the simulated.
Yeah.
That has profound implications for how we experience the world and how we interact with each other.
And then there's the whole concept of cyborgs.
Yes.
A blend of human and machine.
Right.
The sources point to N. Catherine Hayles and her exploration of posthumanism.
It's like we're all becoming cyborgs in a sense. Right. Right? Merging with technology in ways we never imagined before.
What are your thoughts on this idea that we're all becoming cyborgs in a sense?
Well,
how do you see this playing out in your own life?
I can't imagine going a day without my smartphone.
Right.
It's how I connect with people, get information, navigate the world.
Yeah.
It's an essential part of my daily life.
It's like our phones have become almost like a prosthetic limb.
Yes.
We feel incomplete without them.
Yeah.
The sources even use Star Trek's Spock and Seven of Nine as examples of cyborgs.
What's intriguing about those characters is they embody different aspects of how we think about human-machine integration. Spock, with his logic-driven mind, represents a vision of the cyborg where emotions are controlled and order reigns supreme. But then you have Seven of Nine, who struggles to reclaim her humanity after being assimilated by the Borg.
She represents the tension between technological integration and individual identity, highlighting the challenges of becoming too reliant on technology.
Exactly. And this brings us to some big questions about the future of work and technology. How will automation, AI, and the so-called rise of the robots reshape the very nature of labor?
The sources delve into this topic, exploring how technology could lead to these massive economic shifts. Will we see a world where work as we know it becomes obsolete? Will universal basic income become a necessity?
These are important questions to consider as we navigate an increasingly automated world. It's not just about economics. It's about the social and psychological impact of these changes.
Right.
What will people do with their time if they no longer need to work traditional jobs?
Yeah.
How will we find meaning and purpose in a world without work?
These are definitely questions that keep me up at night.
Me too.
The sources also touch on the concept of technological anarchism.
Right.
What are your thoughts on this idea of technology empowering individuals to create these alternative systems of governance and organization?
It's a fascinating concept, but it's important to think about the potential challenges too.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that these alternative systems are just and equitable?
Yeah.
How do we prevent them from being co-opted by those in power?
It's a delicate balance.
It is.
Between harnessing the power of technology for good
and
guarding against its misuse.
Right.
Speaking of which, the sources don't shy away from the ethical dilemmas we face in a digital age. Right. They emphasize that we can't just blindly develop technology without thinking about the moral consequences. We need to be mindful of the values that we encode into our digital creations and the potential impact they have on society.
Absolutely.
Think about algorithms.
Right.
They're used in everything from hiring decisions to loan applications. But what happens if those algorithms are biased?
Right.
The ethics of code are so crucial. We need to ensure that technology is used to create a more just and equitable world for everyone. What stands out to you about this argument?
What strikes me is that we often think of technology as neutral.
Right.
But it's actually shaped by the values and biases of the people who create it.
It's like a mirror reflecting back our own societal biases.
It is.
And as technology becomes more powerful, it's even more important to address these issues.
Absolutely. We need to be actively involved in shaping the development and deployment of technology to ensure that it's used for good.
The sources argue that the future of technology isn't predetermined. We have choices to make.
We do.
Right? They point to movements like creative coding. They draw inspiration from the situationists, suggesting that we can use technology to disrupt the status quo and build a more democratic and participatory digital world.
It's not just about passively consuming technology. It's about actively shaping it to reflect the kind of future we want.
What do you think about the potential of creative coding to create this positive change in our digital landscape?
It's a really exciting movement. It's about reclaiming the power of code. Using it for artistic expression, social commentary, and even political activism.
It's like hacking the system from within. Using the tools of technology to create something beautiful, meaningful, and transformative.
Exactly. And it's not just about individuals creating art or making political statements. It's about building communities and fostering collaboration around technology in a way that empowers everyone.
This has been one mind-blowing conversation so far.
It has.
We've explored how science fiction helps us decode digital culture.
Touched
on the concept of the simulacrum. And even delved into the world of cyborgs.
Wow.
But there's so much more to uncover in these sources.
There is.
We're just getting warmed up. We'll be back in a moment to delve deeper into these fascinating topics.
Sounds good. Welcome back. I'm excited to continue our deep dive into this fascinating material on digital culture and science fiction.
Me too. It's amazing how these sources weave together so many different ideas and perspectives.
It's
like we're on an intellectual roller coaster.
Speaking of roller coasters, one of the things that really struck me was how the sources use science fiction examples to illustrate these complex concepts. And they don't just stick to the obvious choices either.
Like everyone talks about the Matrix.
Exactly.
When discussing Simulacra.
But
these sources go deeper, bringing in films like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Total Recall, even that classic scene from Blade Runner. Where Deckard uses technology to enhance a photograph.
Exactly. And it's not just about using science fiction for entertainment. By analyzing these films, the sources reveal how our hopes and fears about technology have evolved over time. For instance, they discuss this old magazine ad from the 1950s, showing a family cruising in a self-driving car that's basically a mobile home.
It's so interesting to see how the self-driving car was once viewed as a symbol of leisure, and family togetherness.
Yeah.
This promise of a future where technology would free us from the mundane.
But then you fast forward to films like Minority Report and Blade Runner.
Right.
And suddenly the self-driving car becomes associated with surveillance control and the erosion of privacy.
It makes you wonder if our increasing reliance on technology is actually leading us towards a dystopian future.
Yeah.
Like the ones we see in so many science fiction films.
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But the sources also remind us that science fiction isn't just about predicting the future.
Right.
It's about exploring possibilities.
Yeah.
And challenging us to think critically about the choices we're making today.
So instead of getting caught up in the doom and gloom,
right,
we should be using science fiction as a tool to imagine these alternative futures.
Yeah.
And inspire us to create the world we want to live in.
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting.
Right.
The sources delve into some fascinating concepts like creative coding and the situationist movement that suggest we can use technology to disrupt the status quo.
Right.
And build a more just and equitable world.
I'm really intrigued by creative coding.
Yeah.
It's like using code as a form of artistic expression and social commentary.
Right.
What are your thoughts on its potential to create positive change?
It's all about pushing the boundaries of what code can do, exploring its creative potential beyond these traditional utilitarian applications.
Right.
Imagine using code to create these interactive art installations that spark conversations about social justice or developing games that challenge players to think critically about their relationship with technology.
It's like hacking the system from within.
It is.
Using the tools of technology to create something beautiful, meaningful, and transformative.
Exactly. And the sources draw this interesting parallel between creative coding and the situationist movement, which emerged in the mid-20th century and sought to disrupt the spectacle of consumer capitalism through artistic interventions and playful subversion.
So it's about taking the tools of the system and turning them against itself.
Yeah.
Using creativity and imagination to challenge the status quo.
Exactly.
How do you see this playing out in the digital realm?
Think about using technology to create situations that make people question their assumptions about the world.
Okay.
Or using social media to spread awareness about important social issues in a way that's engaging and thought-provoking.
It's about reclaiming our agency in a world where technology is increasingly shaping our lives and our destinies.
It is, and the sources provide concrete examples of how this is being done.
Oh, okay.
They discuss the work of artists and activists who are using technology to challenge surveillance capitalism, create interactive installations that critique social norms, and build online platforms that foster community and collaboration.
It's inspiring to see how people are using technology to create positive change in the world.
It is.
But the sources also acknowledge the challenges we face in a digital age.
Right.
Particularly when it comes to the ethics of code.
They argue that we need to be more mindful of the values we embed in our digital creations. And the potential consequences of our choices.
It's like the old saying, with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
As technology becomes more powerful.
Right.
It's even more important that we use it wisely and ethically.
Absolutely. And this is where the sources' interdisciplinary approach is so valuable.
Okay.
They draw on insights from fields like philosophy, sociology, even literature, to help us understand the complexities of our relationship with technology.
They go beyond just the technical aspects of code and delve into these deeper philosophical questions about what it means to be human in a digital age.
One of the things that really struck me was the discussion of how our understanding of computation has shaped our worldview.
Okay.
They explore the idea that we've shifted from seeing the world as a machine to seeing it as a program.
That's a fascinating shift. What are the implications of this shift in thinking?
Well, if the world is a program, then it can be hacked, rewired, and reimagined. And that's where movements like creative coding come in. It's about using code to create alternative worlds. To challenge the dominant narratives and to empower individuals to take control of their own digital destinies.
It's like we're all becoming programmers in a sense. Shaping the code that runs our lives. But with that power comes responsibility.
Absolutely.
We need to be mindful of the values we encode into our digital creations and the impact they have on society.
Exactly. And that's why the sources emphasize the importance of critical thinking, imagination, and ethical awareness in our relationship with technology.
We need to move beyond passive consumption and become active participants in shaping the digital world we want to live in.
We do.
And that's a challenge that I think we're all grappling with in one way or another.
Absolutely. But it's also an incredibly exciting opportunity to reimagine our relationship with technology and create a future that's more just equitable and humane.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
It has.
We've covered so much ground. From the role of science fiction in shaping our understanding of technology to the potential of movements like creative coding to create positive change.
And we've still got more to explore.
All right.
In our final segment, we'll delve into the future of work, the potential for a post-scarcity society, and the challenges and opportunities of living in an increasingly digital world.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. We're diving right back into this incredible collection of material on digital culture and science fiction.
It's amazing how these sources take us on such a thought-provoking journey. You know, we've talked about cyborgs and simulacra and the power of code. But what's really resonating with me is how these ideas all connect to the future of work.
That's a great point. The sources paint this picture of a future where automation and AI could drastically reshape how we work. Or maybe even eliminate traditional jobs altogether. It's both exciting and a bit unnerving, isn't it?
Absolutely. It raises all sorts of questions about how we organize society and find meaning in a world where work might not be the central focus of our lives anymore.
The sources actually introduced this concept of a post-scarcity society. Where technology could provide for all our basic needs. Freeing us from traditional labor. What are your initial thoughts on that idea?
It's a pretty radical concept, but one that's worth exploring. I mean, imagine a world where people are free to pursue their passions, dedicate themselves to creative endeavors, or just spend more time with loved ones.
It sounds almost utopian. But realistically, wouldn't we face some major challenges in transitioning to such a system?
Oh, of course.
How would we ensure equitable distribution of resources and prevent social unrest?
You're right. It wouldn't be a seamless transition. The sources acknowledge these challenges. And they suggest some potential solutions, like implementing a universal basic income to give everyone a safety net.
That could be a game changer. Providing financial security and allowing people to pursue their dreams without that fear of falling into poverty.
It's a fascinating idea that's definitely gaining traction. And it ties into this larger conversation about the role of technology in shaping our future.
The sources emphasize that the future isn't predetermined. We have choices to make about how we develop and deploy technology.
Absolutely.
And what kind of world we want to create.
They challenge us to move beyond this narrative of technological determinism. This idea that technology just dictates the course of history. Instead, they encourage us to embrace a more proactive and imaginative approach to shaping our digital destiny.
It's about reclaiming our agency. Recognizing that we have the power to steer technology in a direction that benefits all of humanity.
One of the things that really resonated with me was this idea that technology can be such a powerful tool for social change. The sources point to movements like creative coding and the situationist movement as examples of how we can use technology to disrupt the status quo and imagine these alternative futures.
It's about harnessing the power of technology to create spark dialogue, challenge those conventional ways of thinking.
And it's about building communities and fostering collaboration around technology in a way that empowers everyone, not just a select few.
I love that. It's about democratizing technology. Ensuring that it serves the needs of all people, not just those in power.
Exactly. The sources remind us that technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil. It's up to us to decide how we wield it and what kind of world we want to build.
It's a call to action. To become more conscious and engaged citizens in the digital age.
It is.
And to use our voices and our creativity to shape a future that's more just equitable and humane.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey.
It has.
Exploring these intersections of digital culture, science fiction, and the future of humanity.
We've covered so much ground from the nature of reality in a digital age to the potential for technology to both liberate and enslave us.
Absolutely.
We've delved into the philosophical implications of code, the power of storytelling to shape our imaginations, and the importance of taking an active role in shaping our digital destinies.
If there's one thing I hope you take away from this deep dive, dear listener, it's that the future is not set in stone.
Okay.
We have the power to choose the path we want to take.
Right.
And create a digital world that reflects our values and aspirations.
So go out there and be the change you want to see in the digital world.
Yeah.
Use your voice, your creativity, and your technological prowess to build a future that's worthy of our shared humanity. Thank you for joining us on this incredible exploration.